Hi there, you guys. I am going to be reading Refugee for you guys today, just so that I can stay compliant with my Audible account. I am going to have the screen up for you just so that you can have a visual of what the book cover looks like, just like we do in class. All my classes are at different spots in the book. So I am going to be starting with Joseph just outside of Havana Harbor in 1939 when he's 18 days from home. Some of you guys may have heard this already, but some of you may have not, so just bear with me. I am going to be making 3 videos for our chunk today. So I am going to have Joseph's chunk, then Isabel's chunk, and then Mahmoud's chunk all posted on Google Classroom for you guys, and I will be reading all of them. So just listen closely, make sure you're working on your lit circle roles as you are listening. That way you won't have much work to do later on, okay? So here we go. Joseph, just outside of Havana Harbor, 1939, 18 days from home. Help! My dad jumped overboard! Help! Joseph cried. Far below him, already a couple yards away, from the ship, Joseph's father thrashed crazily in the water. He screamed incoherently, but he wasn't calling out for rescue. On the decks below, passengers ran to the rails and pointed. The ship's siren continued to blow, and sailors ran about, but nobody was doing anything. Joseph spun around helplessly. What was he supposed to do? Jump in after his father? It was such a long way down, and he didn't know how to swim. Down below, on sea deck, one of the Cuban police officers tossed his cap and gun belt aside, kicked off his shoes, and jumped headlong into the green water. He hit the ocean with a slap and a splash, and for many seconds Joseph held his breath as though he was the diver himself. Joseph's lungs were just about to burst when the man broke the surface a few yards away from where he'd hit, gasping for breath. The man flipped the wet hair out of his face, spun until he had his bearings, and then set off swimming for Joseph's father. Joseph's heart raced as fast as his feet flew down the stairs. He pushed through the crowds and ran to the rail, but the policeman hadn't yet reached his father. A woman screamed, and Joseph followed the pointing fingers to 2 shark fins that had appeared in the water. Joseph froze in terror. There were more screams, and his papa sank beneath the waves, and Joseph had to cling to the rail not to collapse. One of the St. Louis's lifeboats hit the water, and the ship's siren had brought motor launches from the shore, but none of them were going to be in time. The only person close enough to save Joseph's father was the Cuban policeman. Even though the shark still circled, the policeman took a deep breath and dived beneath the waves. Joseph counted the long seconds before the man broke the surface again, this time with Papa in his arms. The passengers on the ship cheered, but Joseph's father didn't want to be rescued. He struggled in the man's arms, beating him, flailing at him. "Murderers!" he cried. "They'll never take me!" But Papa was weak, and the policeman was strong. One of the motor launches from the shore reached them first, and the policeman helped the other men lift Joseph's father into the boat. Let me die, Joseph's father cried. The words struck Joseph like slaps in the face, and tears sprang to his eyes. His father would rather die than be with his son, his daughter, his wife. The crack of a pistol shot made Joseph jump. One of the men in the boat stood aiming a gun down into the water near the policeman. Pack, pack! He shot twice more, and one of the fins turned away from the policeman to attack the shark, and the man had wounded the shark with his pistol. The men laid Joseph's father in the bottom of the boat and helped the weary policeman on board. There were sighs of relief and whispered prayers on the St. Louis. But Joseph's heart lurched when he saw his father kick away from the man trying to help him. Papa plunged for the side of the small boat and trying to get back to the sea. Let me die, he cried out again. The policeman grabbed him and pulled him back into the boat. Two more of the men restrained him, and the boat quickly turned and sped toward the shore. The St. Louis siren stopped blasting, and suddenly it was all over. All around Joseph, passengers wept, but Joseph now felt more stunned than sad. His father was gone. In many ways, his father had never really come back from the concentration camp. Not the father Joseph knew and remembered. Not the father he loved. He had come back in body, but not in spirit. Joseph's father was gone. His mother was unconscious. His little sister was all by herself, and they would never let Joseph's family into Cuba now, not after his father had gone mad. Joseph and his family would all be sent back to Germany, back to the Nazis. Joseph's world was falling apart, and he didn't see any way to put it back together again. That's the end of Joseph's part for Just Outside of Havana Harbor. If you are working on lit rolls today, please make sure that you complete those in full. But if you're looking for something for Diction Detective, some very strong lines were said in this. You know, when Joseph's father was yelling out, "Just let me die, let me die." Or when Joseph mentions that his father never really came back from the concentration camp, at least not the father that he knew. Those are both really, really good and powerful things to use if you're looking for something. Also, keep in mind, the person that saved Joseph's father was a Cuban policeman. Keep that in mind and remember that as we continue. Isabel's part's coming up next. I am going to post that on another video, so go ahead and exit this link and click on the next one.